فمن كان منكم مريضا أو على سفر فعدة من أيام أخر وعلى الذين يطيقونه فدية طعام مسكين فمن تطوع خيرا فهو خير له وأن تصوموا خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون. Dear brothers, the objective of fasting, and it has been explained in one of my Friday sermon as well, which is in this ayah of Surah Al-Baqarah, لَعَلَّكُمْ تَتَّقُونَ, so that you can have the taqwa of Allah, you can develop taqwa, which is very essential for all your worships, forms of worship to be accepted by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Tattaqun is coming from wiqaya. Wiqaya means to protect, and protection is both physical and spiritual. Physical protection is known to every person. If it is raining, you use umbrella for your protection, so that umbrella becomes your taqwa. But this is a physical taqwa. In the very same way, if it is too hot in summer, again the very same umbrella becomes your taqwa, your wiqaya. In the same way, our clothes, warm clothes, they are also our taqwa. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is concerned with the spiritual taqwa, that taqwa which is going to protect you from the hellfire, which is such a serious thing that every person should think about it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created a paradise, Jannah, and He created Jahannam. Al-Jannatu haqqun wal-naru haqqun. Nobody can dispute about it. That is the belief of a Muslim. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, who has created such a vast Jannah for you, He wants you to enter into this Jannah. But there are some people who will go against the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is why there is a place of punishment as well. Allah does not like to punish you. Allah does not like for you Jahannam. But it is just like a country where the government expects from all the people to be citizens abiding by the law of that country. But the government knows that there would be some people who would not abide by the law. They would steal, they would rob, there would be people who may commit murders. So for them there must be a prison. So the prison is also built. Why? Because some people are going to break the law, so they should be confined to the four walls of the prison. In the very same way, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created this Jahannam for such people to whom the beauty of Islam has been explained. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised them of a great, great reward for everything they do, every good act they do. But still, if they want to go astray and they don't want to follow the laws of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for them is that Jahannam. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that to keep yourself away, to protect yourself from Jahannam, what you should do? Develop this taqwa which keep you away from Jahannam. And this taqwa comes from the obedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It comes through your prayer, through your fasting, through your zakat, through your hajj, through your distinction between halal and haram. These are all the things which are needed for you to protect yourself from the fire of Jahannam. You do all these worships for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is the most important condition for your worship to be accepted, that they should be for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You pray for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. If you pray just to show off, then this prayer is for show off. It is not going to be rewarded. But Allah is asking you to come to the mosque and pray in the mosque, in the congregation, so you are seen by so many people. So you must have this intention not to show off, but just for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But anyhow, the prayer is seen by the people. Even when you give zakat, at least the person who is receiving that zakat from you, he knows that you are the benefactor. So there is a little bit of show off. What about Hajj? MashaAllah, multitude of people, thousands of people around you. So the only form of worship which is not seen by the people, which is not known by the people until you tell them, that is fasting. In this hall, so many people are sitting. We assume all of them are fasting. There may be someone who, because of illness, is not fasting. Because of traveling, he is not fasting. But we don't know about that. So fasting is such a worship that it is only for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has said in this hadith Qudsi that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala rewards each action 10 times. Reward is 10 times. It goes to 100 times. It goes to 500 times, except fasting. Illa sawm fa innahu li wa ana ajzi bihi. Except for fasting, it is only for me. Allah is saying, it is only for me, and I am going to reward it. Every reward is coming from Allah, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has promised for fasting that I am going to reward it. Why? يَدَعُ طَعَامَهُ وَشَرَابَهُ لِأَجْلِي. Because this person is leaving his food, his drink, لِأَجْلِي, only for me, because of my commandments. This is why this form of worship, which is fasting, is distinguished from all the other forms of worship. And from this form of worship, you can develop this taqwa a lot. That you are fasting, you see the food and drink, that is halal for you. You can eat, you can drink. But in Ramadan, in daytime, you are not eating, you are not drinking. Only why? Because of the commandments of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it becomes sincerely for Allah, this act. Haram things are prohibited upon you, but in Ramadan, halal things are prohibited upon you as well, just to train you. This is why the Prophet ﷺ said, "Man lam yada' qawla az-zur wal 'amala bih, falaysa lillahi hajatun an yada'a ta'amahu wa sharabahu." The person who does not leave talking rubbish, talking falsehood, Allah is in no need to ask him to leave his food, his drink. Because that is just a training that don't eat, don't drink, because this is my commandment. Halal things, but you don't commit them. Let alone haram things like talking falsehood, saying things which are not correct, which are lies. That is a training to let you stop from all such bad things. Take someone's money without any justification. That is haram. This is why in the end of the fasting, especially Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning, وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتُدْلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ لِتَأْكُلُوا فَرِيقًا مِنْ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِالْإِثْمِ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Before that is كُلُوا وَاشْرَبُوا حَتَّى يَتَبَيَّنَ لَكُمُ الْخَيْطُ الْأَبْيَضُ مِنَ الْخَيْطِ الْأَسْوَدِ مِنَ اللَّيْلِ. كلوا واشربوا حتى يتبين لكم الخيط الأبيض من الخيط الأسود من الفجر ثم أتموا الصيام إلى الليل. Before that is كلوا واشربوا, eat and drink in the night time. And then it says ولا تأكلوا أموالكم بينكم, but don't eat what? Don't eat such money, such property which does not belong to you. And you go to the courts and bribe them to get someone's property in your name. That is wrong. This is haram. So this is how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us that fasting becomes a way for you to train yourself to develop your taqwa. So that was the main objective of the fasting. Now in this speech, especially now already 9 days have passed, and you must have known all the rulings about fasting. But still, people keep on asking. So this is why I have chosen this topic for you this evening, the rulings about the fasting. The first thing which comes to our mind is the intention. You must have intention for the fasting. And intention is needed for all worship, all forms of worship. The only thing which we want to discuss here, do you have to say with your tongue, Inni nawaitu sawma ghadin min Ramadan. I intend to fast tomorrow, the first day of Ramadan. All right. If you want to give sadaqah to a miskin or to a person, you go to him, say, I intend to give you this amount of money for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The other person would say, please forgive me, you are going to show off among all these people that you are giving me money. Please give me secretly. Intention is there in your heart. An-niyatu mahalluha al-qalb. Intention, the place of intention is in your heart. So when you got the intention to give money to someone who is poor, that is in your heart that you are giving it for the sake of Allah. But if you want to give it for the sake of show off, you would have a photograph ready for you. The time I give this money, please take my photo. That is show off. So intention does not need any saying with your tongue. It is in your heart. So in the beginning of Ramadan, that intention that inshallah I am going to fast the month of Ramadan, that is enough. Every day when you get up for Suhur, why you are getting up for Suhur? Because you got this intention to fasting. The same way when you come for the mosque, you are coming for Asr prayer. Do you need to say, oh Allah, now I am stepping out of my house with the intention of Salatul Asr, and when you come to the mosque, oh Allah, I intend to pray 4 rak'ah, and then you become very near to the mosque and they say, I want to pray 4 rak'ah behind this Imam. And some people, they are more courageous enough even to kick the Imam from the back, this Imam. So nobody should think that I am going to pray behind another person. No. This is wrong. You don't need that. When you got up from your house with this intention that I am going to the mosque for Asr prayer, that intention is enough. So, let us understand that this is the meaning of this hadith. Man lam yujmi as-siyama qabla al-fajr fala siyama lah. The person who got no intention of fasting before Fajr, then he got no sawab, no fasting for him. So this intention is in your heart. And this intention, if it is found in your heart before Suhur, that is enough. The second issue, delaying Suhur, you can delay Suhur, that is better. La yazalun nasu, the saying of the Prophet, La yazalun nasu bi khairin ma lam yu'akhiru as-suhur wa yu'ajjilu al-fitr. لا يزال الناس بخير ما عجلوا الفطر وأخروا السهور. The people would remain in a good conditions as long as they delay their suhoor. And at the iftar time, they try to do it as early as possible. So what does it mean? It means that if Fajr time is, as you know, nowadays it is around Fajr time. What time you are praying in this mosque? Fajr time, what time you pray here? No, but the Suhur time ends around 4:40, 4:41. That is the end time of the Suhur. So it means if your Suhur is at that time before 4:40, so you have delayed it. That is good. Unlike a person who says that let me take my Suhur 1 o'clock at night and 2 o'clock at night and then I go to sleep. So it's better for me. I would have good sleep. Better is to delay this Suhur. And iftar time is what time? When the sun sets. But mashallah, those our brothers who are making timetables, they must add 3 minutes in futur time, only to let you be very precautious that you should not take futur before futur time. This is why they add 3 minutes, 4 minutes in it. But if you take the sunset time from your mobile and you got the sunset time there, it is 3 minutes earlier than the time which is given in the timetable. It gives exactly the sunset time. That is enough for you because sunset time is the time of futur. So if you have taken a minute earlier than the timetable which is given to you, 2 minutes earlier, 3 minutes earlier, it does not matter because it corresponds with the real actual sunset time. All right, there is some leave for such people who are not able to fast during the month of Ramadan, and they can compensate later. Who are they? فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ. Either if you are ill or you are traveling. In both cases, you are allowed not to fast and fast later. This is up to you. If you want to fast, instead you saying, oh, I have to fast later as well, why not now? وَأَنْ تَصُومُوا خَيْرٌ لَكُمْ إِن كُنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. If you fast, that is good. But if you don't want to fast because of your illness, then you are allowed. What type of illness? Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not mention about what type of illness. فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا, must be corona. No. Any illness which disturbs you, by which you think that you can't have fasting, you can't enjoy your fasting because of that illness, even it is a severe headache, you are allowed to skip that fasting and fast later after Ramadan. Because the word فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا, that is general. So it covers all types of illnesses. أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ, or he is traveling. In the same way, the word ala safarin, that is also general, mutlaq, general. Now to limit that journey to what extent? Mainly we say that we follow the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. The sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ, in whatever the Prophet has done, the journey in which he shortened his prayer, that is known to be a journey, because shortening the prayer is allowed in your journey, in your safar. So, according to Imam Ibn Taymiyyah rahmatullahi alayhi, he said that this word is general. So, any journey which is known to be a journey in your times, then treat it as a journey. You can skip the fasting, you can fast later. But some ulama, they wanted to give you some limits as well, because they have seen the different journeys of the Prophet ﷺ, and they found out that Prophet ﷺ, when he traveled around 4 barid, arba'atu burud, 4 barid, he shortened the prayer. So they said 4 barid is the distance in which a person is allowed to take this leave of not fasting. So 4 barid is around 48 miles. 48 miles. So this 48 miles is the limit which is taken by many mazahib. In that distance, if you want, you can shorten the prayer. Not all the prayers, only 3 prayers, which got 4 rak'ah: Zuhur prayer, Asr prayer, and Isha prayer. I remember someone, I was in East Africa when I was there, someone was asking me, what about Maghrib prayer? How we are going to pray, shorten the Maghrib, 1.5, huh? 3 rakat is 1.5 half. So Maghrib is not shortened. Fajr is not shortened. Only Zuhur, Asr and Isha, 2 rakah. So 48 is agreed upon by many mazahib. But according to, as explained by Imam Ibn Taymiyyah, any traveling. So this is why we read in the hadith that Sayyidina Ibn Umar, and it is also attributed to Sayyidina Anas, إِذَا سَافَرَ ثَلَاثَةَ أَمْيَالٍ أَوْ ثَلَاثَةَ فَرَاسِخَ قَصَرَ. Even if he travels 3 miles, and these are the miles during the time of the Prophet ﷺ. It is not the English miles. The word is the same, ثَلَاثَةَ أَمْيَالٍ. Amyal, which is the plural of al-mail, and when you are in a desert. So as far as you can see, until your eyes will twist, can't see, that is called mil during the time of the Prophet. But it has been measured by our research scholars. They say that it is around 1.5 kilo, 1.5 kilo, which is actually the same distance as a mile. They say around 1,675 meter. That is the mile during the time of the Prophet. As I said to you, that is actually very near to the existing miles in our times. So salasata amyal, 3 miles, or salasata farasakh. So farsakh is equal to 3 miles, 1 farsakh. So 3 farsakh is equal to 9 miles. 9 miles. So in this way we can say that even if you leave the first narration of 3 miles, take the narration of 3 farsakh. So 3 farsakh is around 9 miles. So even if a man has left his town and he went to a distance more than 9 miles, according to Sayyidina Ibn Umar, according to Sayyidina Anas ibn Malik, he is allowed to shorten the prayer. But there is a condition: you must leave the town. Within the town, it is not allowed to shorten the prayer. But once you leave the town, then this is the least distance which I have seen in the hadith in which you can shorten the prayer. So, in the journey, the main reason is not tiredness, al-mashaqqa, a difficulty. That is not the main reason. So if you say the main reason is difficulty, then there might not be no difficulty in flying. So if you fly from here to Jeddah, there is no difficulty. That is a very comfortable journey. So you say, got no difficulty, no no rukhsa, no permission. No, that is not the case. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a gift, and you have to accept the gift of Allah. That is the rukhsa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So it is not based upon difficulty. It is just based upon one thing which is known as safar. Now those people who commute from outside to London, for example, so this commuting is very, very common, because people are coming even from Luton, from Bedford, that is in the north, and also from south, and every day they commute, and they might be covering a distance of more than 30 miles or 40 miles. 48, of course, we said that 48 is recognized, is agreed upon everyone that you can shorten the prayer. But if it is within 48 miles, more than 9 miles, within 48 miles, what should be the ruling? For commuter, they don't say that it is a journey which they take. That is commuting. That becomes a custom for them to come every day for their job and go back. For safar or for a journey, there are few other things which are needed for you. If you are actually going on a journey, then you take few things in you which is needed in your journey. You might be saying that I might be delayed in my journey, let me take my miswak, my toothbrush with me. So that is a journey. So in each type of this journey, which is known to be a journey according to urf, according to custom, you are allowed to shorten the prayer, you are allowed not to fast, but we have to fast in the other days. So these are the two categories. We can cover a third category of such people who can't fast because of a chronic illness. Chronic illness which is very, very old illness with you, and where there are no signs to cure, like diabetes, for example. A person got a chronic disease of diabetes, and there is no hope that he is going to recover from it. So this person is not able to fast later. Now he is not fasting in Ramadan. Should he fast later? He say, I can't fast later because of this illness. And the same thing apply to an old person. An old person is getting older. So if he can't fast now, how is he going to fast next month or 2 months later or 6 months later? Here comes this ayah to give us relief. وَعَلَى الَّذِينَ يُطِيقُونَهُ فِدْيَةٌ طَعَامُ مِسْكِينٍ. And those people who can fast but with lot of difficulty, that is the meaning of yutiqunahu. Those people who can fast but with lot of difficulty, ta'amu miskin, they have to feed one miskin. This is known as fidya. Fidya, that the person who is not able to fast, either because of this chronic illness, which is not recoverable, not curable, or an old person who can't fast at all, they have to feed one miskin for each missing fasting. So if you give enough food for one miskin one time, that is enough. That is enough. So I would say to you that give him such food that he can reserve, and he can leave some food for his suhur as well. That would be fine. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did not say that you have to give him for 2 times. It just says ta'am miskin, feeding one miskin. During the time of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it was measured as nisfu sa', half of 1 sa' of grain, that is for miskin. So 1 sa' is around 2.5 kilo. 2.5 kilo, 1 sa'. So half sa' would be around 1.5 kilo. Grain, rice, anything equal to that could be given to a miskin, or any such amount by which he can buy a food for one time. All right, related to that issue is some women who are facing hardship. Of course, the woman who is menstruant, she is not asked to pray, she is not asked to fast. She is exempted from fasting and from praying. Prayer is exempted completely, not to pray it later as well. But fasting, no, she has to fast later. What about pregnant woman and breastfeeding woman? Because pregnant woman, if she is feeling no difficulty in fasting, yes, because she has to fast later. Why not now? But if she is feeling some hardship, in the same way the breastfeeding woman, she is feeling hardship as well because of feeding the babe, or she thinks that if she does not eat, she cannot develop enough milk. So this is why the child is going to suffer. So this is why she is not fasting. So they are allowed not to fast now but fast later, but they have to compensate only. They have to compensate later. They must compensate later. If they have missed 20 fasting, they must fast 20 days at any time before the next Ramadan. Now here a woman comes, she says that first I was pregnant, then I started breastfeeding the child, and it takes around another 30 months. 30 months is total. It takes other 24 months. وَالْوَالِدَاتُ يُرْضِعْنَ أَوْلَادَهُنَّ حَوْلَيْنِ كَامِلَيْنِ لِمَنْ أَرَادَ أَنْ يُتِمَّ الرَّضَاعَ. So this rada'a or breastfeeding is for 2 years, for 24 months. So she is saying that first 9 months I was pregnant, then I started feeding the child for another 2 years. And then what happens? She conceived once again. She conceived once again, and then she got another pregnancy, and then another breastfeeding. So where she got the time to fast, to compensate the fasting? For such a woman, we can say that they could be treated like these two categories: the person who got a very chronic illness, or the person who is too old to fast. And I mean that this woman can give fidya. She can feed one miskin against each missing fasting. What are the things which are going to break the fasting? Of course, everybody knows that intentional eating and drinking is going to break the fasting. That is one thing. And in the same way, if a person got intimacy with his wife during the daytime, then it is going to break the fasting. And we have already mentioned about the woman who is menstruant, that she is not required to fast during her menses. Vomiting intentionally is going to break the fasting. It must be intentionally. For example, either you put your finger in your throat because you want to vomit, that type of vomiting. But if it comes by itself without your intention, then fasting is not broken at all. Same applies to your saliva which comes from your throat. So if you have taken it back, then it does not break your fasting at all. Hijama, cupping. Cupping is going to break the fasting, because the Prophet ﷺ said, "Aftar al-hajim wal-mahjum." The person who does hijama, because in hijama the person has to suck the blood with his mouth. Nowadays, do they suck the blood with the mouth? No? All right. The person whose blood is taken, that is mahjum. So he has broken his fast, but the person who is doing that practice, al-hajim. In olden days, the man, after making a cut, for example, in the head, he has to suck it from his mouth. So this is why some blood will go in his throat as well. So the Prophet said, Aftar al-hajim wal-mahjum. But if nowadays they are using the cupping and nothing goes in the throat of that person, then of course his fasting is not going to be broken. What about the person who is eating and drinking forgetfully? Everybody knows, forgetfully, it breaks or it does not break? It does not break, forgetfully. But not like that person who came to Sayyidina Abu Huraira, radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, and he said to Sayyidina Abu Huraira that I was fasting, then I went to my friend and he offered me some drink, so I drank, forgetfully. And Sayyidina Abu Huraira said, no matter. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has forgiven me. Then he said, the story does not finish here. I went to another friend, he offered me some food. I forgot once again. I took my food. So Sayyidina Abu Huraira said, all right, no matter. Then he said, still there is more. I went back to my house, my wife has prepared food, I just ate it. So Sayyidina Abu Huraira said, I think that you are not accustomed to fasting at all. You don't know what is fasting. So I don't mean that you should be like this person. Whenever you see the food, you forgot your fasting. Yeah, that is the nature. That is the nature of the man. He forgets. He forgets. I can tell you about myself. I have to attend a janaza. A very close friend's son. That friend has died long ago. Now his young son, near about 50, he died as well. So I attended his janaza, and then a person asked us a lift. So we gave him the lift because he was on our way to our house. We were coming from South Hall areas. And it is around, I think maybe 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock when we dropped him at his house. And then he said farewell to us, Assalamu alaikum, alaikum assalam, and he left me. And I'm thinking, but he's such a close friend of mine, and he did not say to me, please come in, have a cup of tea. And it is a time, tea time as well. He did not say, and he did not offer me even a cup of tea. I was just thinking that what happened to this man? I never realized that I am fasting until I reached home, and then I laughed upon myself. How could I think such a thought? But that is forgetfulness. Thank God he did not offer it, and I did not take it. So in all these cases, except for intimacy, in all these cases, if you missed a fasting, then you have to make one fasting for each missing fasting. Just one fasting for each missing fasting. Whether you have done it intentionally, of course you have intentionally you did not fast, because we have already said, forgetfully you are forgiven. But as for intimacy, here applies kafara. That is called kafara, because you have done something wrong, you have to pay the penalty. That is kafara. Not fidya, it is kafara. And that is the famous, based upon the famous hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, that a Bedouin came to the Prophet ﷺ in the month of fasting, Ramadan, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah. I have done something very serious. What have you done? He said, I got intimacy with my wife in the daytime. Oh, that is something serious. So the Prophet said, you have to pay the penalty. Set a slave free, because those days slavery was in practice. Set a slave free. He said, I got no slave. I am the slave of Allah only. I got no slave. All right, if you got no slave, then fast for 60 days. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I was not able even to fast one day. I got no sabr, no patience, and you are asking me for 60 days. How can I fast for 60 days? Then the Prophet ﷺ said, then feed 60 masakin. So he said, O Prophet of Allah, I got nothing to feed anyone. So Prophet said, all right, stay and wait. Now a person came with a big basket of dates, full of dates, to the Prophet ﷺ. This is for you, for all the musallis here in the mosque. And the Prophet ﷺ said to this man, all right, take this basket and feed 60 masakin. Because these dates were enough for 60 masakin, this is what it means. I think this man was very clever. He said, you are saying feed it to 60 masakin? Wallahi, in whole Medina, there is no bigger miskin than myself and my family. Then the Prophet said, all right, feed yourself and your family, your children, khalas, take it. So the kafara of having intimacy during the day of Ramadan, day of fasting, that is the penalty. And it should be a 60-day fasting, and it should be continuously. Some other things which don't break the fasting, that is like a young man who got wet dream in daytime as well. It is not coming with his own intention, is not so? So it does not break the fasting. In the same way, what I have said to you about the saliva, and some people they ask, what about putting some oil in the ear because there is an ache in the ear? No, it does not. In the same way, alcohol to put in the eyes, it does not break the fasting at all. What about blood test, taking some blood out of your arm? Here there is a difference, because we have said about aftar al-hajim wal-mahjum. In hijama, because a lot of blood comes out and the person becomes weak because of that. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not want you first to fast and then you become weak as well. So this is why this type of blood which is taken out a lot, it is going to break the fast. But this blood test, that is a small amount of blood, very small amount of blood. So don't care about it. It does not break the fasting at all. What about donation? Blood donation. Of course, it would be good amount of blood which you donate. That is going to, it is just like hijama, it is going to break your fast. Now here we can discuss this issue as well. If a person who was ill, who did not fast, and he thought that after Ramadan I will fast. After Ramadan, he was well, he has been cured, but he delayed his compensation of fasting. He said, I will fast later, not now, maybe next month. In this way, he kept on delaying it, and then he died. So, what to do now? For such a person, because he has missed his fasting, what was the ruling of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that he should fast later. And because he was allowed to fast any time, so he has delayed. He did not know that he is going to die. So now what is going to happen, that from his inheritance, enough money is to be taken out to feed masakin, according to the number of the fasting he missed. So if he missed 20 fasting, then you have to feed 20 masakin from his inheritance money. All right, suppose when he was ill in the month of Ramadan, and he died on the last day of Ramadan, and he missed the whole Ramadan. What do you think? What should you do? What the people behind or his success, his heirs should do? Should they fast, or should they give some money? Should they feed miskin? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, فَمَنْ كَانَ مِنْكُمْ مَرِيضًا أَوْ عَلَى سَفَرٍ فَعِدَّةٌ مِنْ أَيَّامٍ أُخَرٍ. This person who was ill and who was traveling, he can fast later. So this man could say to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, you did not give me the time to fast. And I was intending to fast, but you did not give me the time. I just died in Ramadan, or in the last day of Ramadan. So it means that nothing is payable on his behalf. All right, what is the meaning of that hadith? Man mata wa alayhi sawmun sama anhu waliyuhu. The person who dies and he got some fasting due to him, his wali should fast on his behalf. His wali should fast on his behalf. So what is the best interpretation of this hadith is, this is the hadith of Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, that this is meant to be the fasting of vows. Fasting of vow. In Arabic it is known as a nazr. And the person who made a vow that if this thing had happened to me, if my child who was ill, he is cured, Allah, I am going to fast for you for 1 day, for 2 days, for 3 days. That is called a nazr. So this person has made it obligatory upon him, by himself. By himself he made it obligatory. So this is why if he does not fast and he dies, his wali can fast on his behalf. Unlike the other fasting which he did not fast because of illness or traveling, and I said to you that what happened, he died, then either you have to feed some masakin from his inheritance if he got the time to fast and he did not fast, or the person has died in Ramadan, so there is no need for anything to do on his behalf. The fasting in the traveling, there was one issue which I have just mentioned here. If fasting is troubling you a lot, then of course you are, first of all, you are traveling, and secondly it is too hot. This is why you are in difficulty. So the Prophet ﷺ, once he was traveling and he saw a person who was sitting and people were making shade upon him. They are trying to bring some shade upon him because of the sun. They are in the wilderness, in the desert. What happened to him? And they said that he is fasting. This is why what difficulty is happening to him, what hardship is happening to him. And the Prophet said, "Laysa min al-birri as-siyamu fi as-safari." Laysa min al-birri as-siyamu fi as-safari. It is not a piety to fast during the journey or during the traveling. So this is another hadith which supports that in traveling you are allowed not to fast, but if it is very hard for you, then you should not fast at all. So this hadith also, remember that our Prophet ﷺ has said it, لَيْسَ مِنَ الْبِرِّ الصِّيَامُ فِي السَّفَرِ. And according to one report, he changed to a dialect of Himyar. Himyar is a tribe of Yemen. So they change alif lam to alif mim. For example, al-kitab they would say am-kitab. Al-qalam they would say am-qalam. So here all alif lam in this hadith are changed to alif mim. Laysa minam birri siyamu fim safari. 3 alif lam, they are all changed to alif mim, alif mim, alif mim. So this is reported both ways, this hadith. One issue is that when we have traveled during the month of Ramadan from one country to another country, for example, we have started here Saturday. So if I travel to Pakistan, they have started from Sunday. Suppose, according to my fasting, when I reach there till the end of Ramadan, I have ended my fasting of 30 days. But the people in Pakistan, they have still one more day to fast. Why? Because they started fasting one day later than us. Should I fast another day? Should I fast another day? Yes. If I have fasted for 29 days, then there is nothing wrong if I fast for 30th day. Because Ramadan is either 29 or 20 or 30. It may be 29 here, but if I fast with them, it will become 30 for me, 29 for them. But 30 is acceptable by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, if I have already fasted for 30 days, when I reach there, I fasted 30 days, but they are still fasting for another day. No, I am not going to fast because this is 31st day. But am I going to celebrate Eid and go and pray Eid myself? I have to pray Eid with people. As-sawmu yawma tasumun, wal-fitru yawma tufsirun, wal-adha yawma tudahhun. This I have to do it with the jama'ah, with the congregation. So I am not going to celebrate my Eid by myself, no. I will wait until they pray Eid so I can join Eid with them. Opposite of that, just think opposite of that. That, for example, I have traveled from Pakistan to here, to this country. So the one who is coming from Pakistan, he had only fasted for 28 days. Here, he has fasted for 28 days, but we have already fasted for 29 days. And then the crescent was seen, and we are celebrating Eid the following day. So the following day is Eid. What should this man who came from Pakistan should do? Because he has fasted only 28 days. What should he do? Should he fast while we are celebrating Eid? No, he should not fast because he has to make Eid for other people and he compensates one day later. One day later he should complete 29 days like all other days, like all other people. Very similar issue is of a person who is traveling to the West. Now, our iftar time in London is around 7:45, 46 today, 7:40. So if I took a plane and it is going towards west, to America for example, sun is not going to set at 7:45 now. Because we are traveling towards the west, you will see the sun traveling with us as well. So it will set later. It may be 1 hour later. As you know that if it is 7:45 here, 7:45 here in London, this time 7:45, if you go to New York, it is 6 hours. 6 hours, their time is 6 hours. Late, yes. So we have to take away 6 hours from 7:45, it means 1:45. So they are still 1:45 in their midday. So it means your fasting is going to be prolonged. You can't say that, oh, I am going to break my fast according to London time. And you still see the sun from the window of your plane. It's still there. You say, no, just cover this window and take my meal. No, you can't. You have to wait for setting the sun. Even if it takes 1 hour or 2 hours, does not matter. Opposite is if someone is coming from New York to London and he says, oh, there are still 2 hours for my breaking the fast. But in London, yes, they have broken the fast. So you have to break the fast. Now, so there is another issue that if you got nafil fasting, for example, you started the fasting in the morning, nafil fasting is not fard fasting. So there is no niyyah, no intention required from the night, no. A person has got up in the morning and he did not take any food at all, and then he says, all right, let me make it my fasting today. So that is possible. In the same way, if somebody has offered you food by evening and he is persisting upon you, please take some food, and you are just fasting, nafil fasting. So instead of telling the person, man, I am a very pious person, I am fasting today, so I am not going to eat your food, instead you can say, you can take that food, because you can break the fasting. Why? It is nafil fasting. But fard fasting, no, you can't. You can't break the fard fasting until, as we said, that a person is in such a bad condition, hard condition, that he can't continue. He is forced to break the fasting. Yes, he can do that. A similar issue is a person who got up at night time for suhur time, and he ate his food, and there is no mosque near him, he can't hear the adhan. So he has mistaken the suhur time, and he kept on eating, and then he discovered that he has passed the suhur time. He has passed the suhur time, and he has eaten after the suhur time. Should he continue his fasting, or he should say that my fasting is not valid because I have already eaten, I have already broken my fast? What should he do? What should he do? What should he do? Yes, he continue fasting. He continue fasting because when he started his suhoor, that was a time allowed in which you are allowed to eat. So that was your original state of condition. Your original state of condition is that eating was allowed to you. But out of mistake, out of error, you kept on eating, so you are allowed. Unlike the sunset time. The sunset time, you thought that the sun has set. It might be behind some clouds, but you thought that it has set and you have eaten. And then after a few minutes, you saw the sun once again. What do you say now? Your fast is broken or not? your fast is broken. Why? Because you were in the state of fasting that time. In this state, you must not come out of the state of fasting except with yaqeen that sun has set. So it was not yaqeen. So this is why you have taken the food before sunset time. So your fasting is broken. There are a few other things which we can mention in the end of this speech. We have already said that there are few things which are not liked by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The person who is talking falsehood, giving false testimony during the fasting, does it break the fast? No, it does not break the fast. It does not break the fast. Fasting is counted with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that you have fasted. But there is no reward for that. No reward for that fasting at all. So, if a person says something bad to you, abuse you in name, so what you have to say? If someone is abusing you by saying some names, just say, Ana sa'imun, I am fasting. That should be your reply. We have already said about intimacy, that it is going to break the fasting. And for a married person. Now here comes this case of a man who came to the Prophet ﷺ and he said to the Prophet, O Prophet of Allah, I have kissed my wife during the fasting. And the Prophet said, yes, your fasting is broken. And then an old person came and he asked the same question. And the Prophet said, all right, your fasting continues. So the people who were listening to the Prophet, he said, O Prophet of Allah, the first person you said your fasting is broken. And the other person you said your fasting is all right. Why? The same action is done by the same people, by both people. And the Prophet said that because the first person was a young man, for a young man, so he is not given that leave. The other person was an old person, so he was given this leave. So Prophet ﷺ distinguished between a young person act and an old person act. Few things which are allowed, like miswak, and instead of miswak, nowadays the people, they use toothbrush. That does not affect your fasting. In the same way, having oil on your head and massage it, or putting kohl in your eyes, I have already mentioned it. That is not going to break the fasting at all. A woman is allowed, when she is cooking the food, just to taste whether the food is cooked or not. She can taste it, just tasting. It does not mean that she has to eat that flesh or that meat which she has tasted. So tasting is allowed, not eating it. If a person has to take ghusl, it is wajib upon him to take ghusl for before at night time, before Fajr prayer. So can he delay his ghusl even after Suhur? The question is that it has become wajib upon him, either because of wet dream or because of intimacy. So he becomes jumbi, becomes in the state of major impurity. So this person, if he delays his washing himself, taking bath himself, that is allowed. Of course, he has to take the bath before for Fajr prayer. He has to. But if he delays it, it does not mean that his fasting is broken. No, it is not broken at all. These are the most important issues which were related to the fasting. So I have to stop here. If you have any other question, I can answer it now. Sallallahu ta'ala ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Yes, if you got any question. No.
Ustad, if it's a nafil fasting and a person has intimacy with their spouse, do they have to pay the same penalty as the fasting in Ramadan?
No, not. Fasting Ramadan is obligatory. Obligatory fasting is different from nafil. Nafil fasting, as I said to you, that if somebody has offered you food, you can. So let alone this one.
Can we use the liquid mouthwash while fasting?
What is that?
Liquid mouthwash.
Mouthwash, you mean other than water?
Yeah.
No, the main thing is nothing goes to your throat, down the throat. So if you just spit it out, it's all right. Nothing wrong.
Shaykh, insulin, using insulin.
Insulin. Yes, insulin. In insulin, there is just insulin with air only, oxygen with air only, and one air with some liquid. Have you got these two types of insulin? And just air only, when you pump the air, that is not going to break the fast. But if it got some liquid which is going to your throat as well, then it is going to break.
Yeah, one question. If it was insulin, following up on that question, that is like injections. So it's like inject your body, your stomach, anywhere like that.
No, injection is not going to break, and we have to differentiate between even vaccination and injection. So vaccination is not going to break the fast because it is a preventive measure. Injection, if it is for nourishment, it gives you some energy or food. Yes, that is going to break the fasting. Insulin not. Insulin is just a preventive measure.
No, because some people they have like type 1 diabetes, so they get like an EpiPen, so they have to inject in their thigh regularly to regulate the blood level. So they inject in their thigh. 3 times a day. So does this break the fast of the fast?
You mean that it is and it gives some type of energy or food?
No, it doesn't give no energy. It doesn't give no nourishment. It's because your sugar level.
Your sugar level, just to control your sugar level. No, it should not. Then it should not. No.
What about if someone has an allergic reaction? So he needs to take an EpiPen as well for that. So for example, maybe he's fasting and gets stung by a bee or something like this, so then he gets a reaction. So then he needs to take this EpiPen in his thigh or his leg, just like the insulin. He takes it to react to this.
No, you mean by mouth. If it is by mouth and a tablet, then he has broken the fast, but he has to compensate one fasting only. But if it is injection, so it does not break, as I said before. It is not nutritious. If it is nutritious, then of course it is going to break.
So what about taking asthma pill? Someone's asthmatic.
That is in the throat itself, is not so? Huh?
But it's a pump though. It's, it goes only to the lungs.
Inhaler.
Inhaler. Yes, mostly the ulama I have seen they say that it does not break. No, it does not break. It is not like just any food which works as any other food which you take.
So
just a treatment.
We can't allow to donate our bloods to the emergency patient in that life of that situation?
Do it after iftar. Do it after iftar. Because as I said before, that if any donating blood is just like hijama, that is going to break the fast.
Shaykh, some people they have
Shaykh,
this
something
idea.
about
8 minutes. Yes.
Shaykh, talking about الحجامة, I came across this hadith وابن عباس رضي الله عنه قال أنه يعني احتجم النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم وهو صائم ومتفقون عليه.
So this what I mentioned, after al-hajim wajah. Then this hadith, after al-hajim wal-mahjum, that is about al-hijama, that it does iftar. But this one, here there is ihtajama wa huwa muhrimun, wa ihtajama wa huwa sa'imun. So they have a discussion about this particular hadith, that actually the word is ihtajama wa huwa muhrimun, not wa ihtajama wa huwa sa'imun. This word is said to be an added word into it.
شيخ عفوا أحسن الله عليك. شيخنا حكم الاستمناء للصائم.
That is out of lust,
No.
desire.
So
It's going to break.
it's going to break.
Well, definitely it's going to break.
So what is istimna?
Huh?
Can you just explain what istimna for the people?
You know the English word for that.
And it's secret habit. If someone does secret habit,
Like masturbation.
masturbation.
This is what I say, and you have to, this word, that is a, yani fasting is broken. Fasting is broken, but the other issue, whether it is allowed or not in other than fasting, that depends upon the situation that if a person, for example, the Prophet has said that Ya ma'ashar al-shabab man istata'a minkum al-ba'ata falyatazawwaj. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَسْتَطِعْ فَعَلَيْهِ بِالصَّوْمِ فَإِنَّهُ وِجَاءٌ. The Prophet is saying that those young people who can afford to marry, they should marry to fulfill their sexual desire. But if they can't afford the marriage, then they should fast, because fasting is going to break their shahwa, their desire. So the Prophet didn't say فَعَلَيْهِ بِالْإِسْتِمْنَاء. He didn't say that. You could said that, but he did not say that. So this is why we will say that it is disliked. This matter is disliked. Should not be allowed. But if a person did it just to keep himself safe or secured from zina, from fornication, then of course it is a lesser evil. And when you are confronted with bigger evil, lesser evil, then lesser evil is allowed. Follow.
About the kafara of breaking the soul deliberate, you said you have to feed 60 people. What about if he has to do 20 days? Is it 60 each day or just 60 times each day?
Yani the person.
Can you divide it instead of fasting 60 days at once?
So, for example,
No. His question is different. That he is saying that the person did not do it once. All 20 days he was doing it. Huh? We would say that you don't know what is fasting at all. Of course, of kafara itself, they say that if the sin is of the same nature, that one kafara is enough. But if the nature is different, that person has done this, and then he has sworn, and then he has broken his swearing, and then the kafara of swearing is applied to him, and then he did zihar to his wife, that is different thing. Then 3 kafara, different kafara. But this is the same nature, so one kafara is applicable to him. One kafara.
How about regarding the kissing of husband, the young person and the old? How And he kissed the wife goodbye. Would that?
He's traveling and fasting.
Yes.
When he is fasting, he has to honor all the requirements of fasting. So the same thing applies. His fasting is broken, but he can compensate later. It is not like intimacy. So he has to fast one day later. This means that actually if he did not fast in Ramadan, in traveling, the same result is the same, that he has to fast one day later.
Shaykh, some people, they think, they have this idea that if a person, he swears or he has foul language, then his fast breaks. Is that true?
No. Fasting is not broken, because this is not among the nawaqid as-sawm. But it will take away the reward of the fasting. This is what it means.
Shaykh, I had one thought of school that if someone kisses his wife and semen doesn't come out, then it will not break the fast. Is it true?
This is true that and if there is a consequence of that, then of course his fasting is broken. His fasting is broken. But here is the issue of saddu zarai. Saddu zarai means stop the means leading to something which is prohibited. So for a young man, the Prophet ﷺ asked him not to do it, that is going to break your fast. So he wants him to stop from this, because it is going to lead to further action, because he is a young man. And the old person, there is no such things with the old person. No.
What about if you have saliva that has mucus in it?
Now even the mucus, if it is coming from the throat, from the depths of the throat, still it is from your body, and it is not coming from with your own intention. So it will not break.
What about if you kiss her on the forehead, just to say goodbye kiss? Forehead.
No, I did not understand.
If you kiss your wife's forehead,
If you kiss the wife on the forehead,
is it okay?
goodbye to travel.
Yes,
On the forehead.
you're leaving.
Yes, it is not out of shahwa, It's not out of shahwa, desire. No, making goodbye, so it means that it's not out of shahwa.
Shaykh, Hasan a brother asks that basically he works in construction. If he works in construction, because he's dealing with a lot of dust, so he's fasting. So sometimes the dust, he can feel it in his throat. When he swallows, he can feel the dust in his throat. Does this break his fast?
No, it does not break his fast. That is also specifically mentioned in the book of fiqh, that ghubarul ard does not break the fast. Sallallahu ta'ala ala nabiyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi. Jazakumullahu khairan. Inshallah. نعم
في سؤال ثاني.
تفضل.
شيخ المسافر الذي يسافر متى يفطر؟ هل يفطر يعني بعد أن تجاوز يعني 48 miles أو يفطر ممكن قبل ذلك قبل السفرية؟
الإفطار يعني تقصد السهور أو تقصد الإفطار؟
لا أقصد يعني عدم الصوم. مثلا هناك رجل يريد مثلا يسافر برمنغهام فيريد يسافر برمنغهام يوم الاثنين.
نعم.
فهل عليه أن يصوم ذلك اليوم الاثنين وعندما يسافر وعندما يعني يتجاوز 48 miles, he goes for over 48 miles, then can he break his fast then? Or is it permissible for him to break his fast, not to fast on Monday before he starts his travel?
No, he has to, if he is in his town, he has to start his suhur, and once he starts on his journey, then he breaks the fast. But while he is still in his hometown, he can't say that I am traveling, because it may be that he can't travel. It may be that he has gone to take a bus and all the buses are cancelled. So if he's fasting, he can continue fasting. MashaAllah. You are coming with me?